Have you ever thought what would be our future with the existence of artificial intelligence in our daily life? Current understanding of artificial intelligence is intelligent machine that has the capacity of communication with human, and of course sometimes a little bit scary. From my understanding, artificial intelligence is a decision-making system that has the capacity of finding optimal solution in interaction with its environmental signal or in response to the specific signal. As an example, an artificial intelligence can be a decision-making system, a cognitive system that helps us to make the optimal decision even by direct connection to our brain. Or it can be a smart carrier of an anti-cancer drug that specifically targets cancer cells with the lowest effect on the normal cells. From my background in veterinary medicine, I was always fascinated by the variety in the morphology and behavior in different species of animals. And I was so curious about the programs and codes behind all of these varieties. And this motivated me to continue my studies in genetics, biochemistry, and then later in stem cell biology. Biological systems are highly cognitive systems in different forms, from the very primitive to the most developed forms, and they are able to make a smart decision in their interaction with their environmental factors. Just as chameleon that is able to make decision over its own skin color and can synchronize its skin color with the environment just as a hiding mechanism. Or the self-navigation capacity of birds over the entire of their migration flight. In another example, the engineering skin of honeybees for making highly specific structures and architectures of honeycomb. And more importantly, unlike any other human-made computers, biological systems are able to make decisions in every single of their subunits. For example, in a growing embryo, every single stem cell is able to make its own decision in communication with other cells to find its own position. Collectively, they are able to communicate each other, making highly specific geometries, which is growing in size and complexity by time. This is called self-organization. Self-organization capacity of stem cells in a growing embryo pretty much is like the formation of a castle in a sandwich. Though during the embryonic development, in addition to the geometries, thousands of different machineries are forming by time in different tissues and organs. Now, the big question is that how we can learn from biological system in designing and improving our decision-making system. Currently, the main challenge in artificial intelligence is about the designing decision-making algorithms which could find the optimal solution in interaction with the environmental signals, especially when the system is interacting with several factors. This class of problems in mathematics are called NP problems because by their complexity, they cannot be solved by logical time, and they are considered as unsolvable problems. In contrast to the other class of problems that we call P problems, or that means they can be solved easily by logical time, such as multiplication problem. As an example of NP problems, consider traveling salesman problem. Traveling salesman problem asks, in a given number of cities, what is the shortest possible path that visits every city and comes back to the original city? The problem statement sounds easy, but as the number of cities increase, the number of scenarios and the operation times grows exponentially. Therefore, solution will be impossible to be found in a logical time, even by current supercomputers. I'm not a traveling saleswoman, and I'm not a mathematician, but I saw this problem somewhere else in differentiating pathways of stem cells. During the early stage of embryonic development, differentiating stem cells are able to make thousands of decisions by finding the optimal combination of gene regulatory factors toward different destinations, for example, different types of tissues and cells in our body. And they are able to make thousands of decisions by solving NP problems in a network as large as the entire of their genome. Now, the question is that how stem cells are able to make thousands of decisions in a highly efficient way, while still we have several problems in solving similar NP problems applying our supercomputers. This question engaged my mind for a long time since I was a PhD student. I was trying to find an algorithm in computer science that could be matched with the decision-making capacities of stem cells. And later I was trying to understand the mechanisms of coding and computing in stem cells by getting deep in the chemistry of cells. But unfortunately, after a long time research, I didn't find a solution. But then later, I was able to connect the dots and find the solution in chemistry, but in a special form of chemistry that information are embedded in the molecules and in the materials. So I call this platform cognitive chemistry. Cognitive chemistry is a chemical-based coding system that information are embedded in the molecules and materials. DNA is a simple example for cognitive materials, and we can apply DNA in the synthetic form as a matrix for information storage. But cognitive chemistry is not limited to DNA, and we can apply different forms of synthetic materials for information storage. In addition, in a cognitive chemistry system, the system has the recognition capacity over its environment, applying its molecular sensors. Therefore, by combining these two properties, we understand that in cognitive chemistry, the software and hardware are integrated together. In addition, unlike current computers that are limited to a single layer of coding, which is binary coding, in cognitive chemistry, we have multiple layers of coding. For example, DNA coding language with 4 coding subunits with 4 different nucleotides. Or protein coding language with 20 different coding subunits. Therefore, by multi-layer coding capacity of cognitive system, the system will be empowered to parallel operation, which enhance the operation rate of system incredibly. Now, the question is that can we solve NP problems such as traveling salesman problem applying cognitive chemistry algorithm? Let's see. As we discussed earlier, we know that the main limitation in our current computers for solving NP problems is about the sequential operation. The system needs to check all the possible scenarios before finding the optimal solution. However, in cognitive chemistry, applying the parallel operation capacity of the system, we can pass this problem and this limitation. And the system is able to find the solution immediately. In this animation, we can see how a current complex method is trying to find a near optimal solution for traveling salesman problem, applying a semi-sequential method. As you see here, the system is trying to define the problem and then checking all the possible scenarios before finding the optimal solution. However, in cognitive chemistry, applying the parallel operation capacity of the system, the algorithm is able to check all scenarios in parallel and at the same time. There would be no gap between the problem and the solution. Therefore, cognitive chemistry algorithm has been able to move traveling salesman problem from the category of unsolvable problems into solvable problems. The importance of this solution is definitely in designing of decision-making algorithms in artificial intelligence. But more importantly, this solution can be applied in biomedical science for treatment of cancer by analysis of large data sets from cancer patients and a smart targeting of cancer-related genes. Also, it can be applied for treatment of protein misfolding diseases, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson, and prion-related diseases. In my opinion, any disease is a coding disorder, and if we know the appropriate code, we can fix the problem. During the entire of my career, I was so curious about the power of life, and I tried to understand the connection between chemistry, physics, and mathematics in biological system. And I believe if we delve deeper, we will find that there is just one rule governing the entire of nature and universe, and that's the universal science. Thank you.